It was a horrifying case of déjà vu.
We were about 15 feet away from center stage to the left.
Once again, people had gathered for music and fun, only to hear this instead.
All of a sudden, we hear the pop, 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 and we just thought it was fireworks.
It just kept going and going. It was insane.
And I could see the flashes from the Mandalay Bay, and I said, I see where it's coming.
It was somebody shooting a fully automatic.
People just started screaming and running.
At least 59 people killed, now the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history. Among the victims, Lisa Romero, a high school secretary, Susan Smith, an elementary school office manager, Sandy Casey, a special ed teacher. One off-duty officer was also killed.
One of my officers was off duty attending the concert and lost his life.
More than 500 people were injured. The horror began nearly 24 hours ago when an estimated 22,000 concert-goers packed into an open-air venue along the famed Las Vegas Strip for a country music festival. They had no idea that high above them on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort, a lone gunman was watching and waiting. Shortly before 10 p.m. local time, headliner Jason Aldean took the stage.
I was videotaping it, and all of a sudden, hear in the background something that sounded like fireworks going off. It was going pop, 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 pop.
At 10:08 p.m., the first shots erupted.
And all of a sudden, you hear the music on the stage stop. Jason stopped singing, and then the lights on the stage went off.
For so many, confusion. Was this part of the show?
That's just a firecracker.
I know, but why would you do that?
Seconds later, the rapid-fire shooting starts again.
I think someone said there was a shooter.
He goes, "That's gunshot." And we grabbed each other's hands and went running.
We have an active shooter.
Get down. Get down.
We're gonna get trampled if we don't go.
The hellfire lasted for minutes, coming from just across the street.
I see the shot coming from Mandalay Bay, halfway up.
I picked up a grandma and a little girl, and the little girl was just asking if she was gonna die. She was scared.
Ambulances rushed to the scene as bystanders began to triage victims.
We just need to get people over to the hospital, okay?
Okay, go ahead. Put them all in the back.
Okay. Can you,
Many plugging bullet wounds with their bare hands, turning barricades into makeshift stretchers.
There's many people down, stage left. Just be advised.
Hundreds of victims rushed to 5 area hospitals, many with gunshot wounds.
It was nonstop surgery after surgery until about 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning.
The state's only level 1 trauma center, overwhelmed by the critically wounded.
We brought in extra trauma surgeons, extra critical care nurses.
University Medical Center's Dr. Saeed Saqib was the trauma surgeon on call last night.
Tell me about the condition of the patients that were coming in. What were you seeing?
We were seeing all kinds of injuries, gunshot to the head, chest, abdomen, pelvis, and extremities. But this is something we deal with on a regular basis. Again, the only difference was the higher volume.
At 11:20, SWAT teams are able to zero in on the shooter's hotel room on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay after the dense gun smoke sets off a fire alarm.
Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back.
They use explosives to storm the gunman's room.
Breach, breach, breach.
Police find him dead inside, along with a cache of 23 rifles and handguns.
We believe the individual killed himself prior to our entry.
They identify the gunman as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock from Mesquite, Nevada. They say he checked into the hotel on Thursday. His motive remains a mystery.
We've checked all the federal databases and local databases and state databases, and we had no knowledge of this individual.
Today, my colleague Matt Gutman went inside Mandalay Bay.
In the light of day, you can see the enormous distance between that shattered window up there on the 32nd floor where that shooter was perched, across that park, across the boulevard, into that killing field below. And what you're seeing down there is their forensics team still on the ground, and those are people's belongings.
He also caught up with Mike Kronk, who was in the thick of the rampage last night.
My buddy's like, I just got hit, and got hit 3 times.
Mike used his shirt to keep his friend from bleeding out.
You guys are trying to do triage while the shooting is still going on.
There's no way I'm going to leave my buddy, We weren't even sure if the shooting was stopped. We got him over the fence and under the stage, so at least we knew we were safe.
He eventually got him to a hospital.
We need blood. So if anybody can contribute blood.
Today, those wanting to help heeded the urgent calls for blood donations, some waiting in line for up to 5 hours. This morning, President Trump addressed the nation, ordering flags at half-staff, vowing to visit Vegas Wednesday.
In moments of tragedy and horror, America comes together as one.
Later, he and the First Lady led the nation in a moment of silence. Many of the survivors now recounting their race to safety, memories of other mass shootings on their minds.
I was trying to be calm, but at the moment I thought of the Orlando shooting. We didn't know where the shooter was.
Las Vegas now sits at the top of a list no city wants to leave. The worst mass shootings in U.S. history. The scenes all hauntingly familiar. From the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando.
Another mass shooting in America. The police are describing this as a mass casualty situation.
They said there's a lot of dead bodies at the club. They can't identify anybody.
To the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
From Newtown, Connecticut, where today a nightmare unfolded.
Modern mass murder in the U.S. dates back to 1966, when a gunman opened fire from the bell tower of the University of Texas, killing 14 people below. Since then, the pace has quickened. The 4 deadliest shootings have all happened within the last decade.
The pace and significance of mass shootings over the last decade in our country is saddening, how normalized it's become.
And many, including survivors of previous attacks, worry it will keep happening.
It's haunted our dreams, that we would wake up to the news of a massacre like this. This was domestic terrorism.
Their hearts are broken.
Back in Las Vegas, hundreds gathered for a prayer vigil tonight, remembering the lives lost while honoring the heroes who saved so many others.
And joining me now is Russell Bleck and his fiancee, Brianna Scoggin. They were at the concert last night in the VIP tent, which was closest to the shooter. How did it unfold?
So initially it started with, we heard 2 3-round bursts, like pop, 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 pop. It sounded like an amplifier or something cracking, and it was too far away to sound like a firearm.
And you started videotaping?
Yeah, well, right during that, I had just left the bar. We just got done taking a photo together, and we were going to get one last shot of whoever was on stage. And all of a sudden, we heard that, and I panned over and saw people going around the corner, and I looked over. I was like, wait, that kind of sounded like an AR like a weapon. And then, sure enough, it went fully automatic, which I was not ready for. I was expecting a few pops. I grew up in Kentucky around firearms my whole life, and it just was relentless. We're talking hundreds of rounds. I mean, we couldn't move unless we waited for him to reload.
And Brianna, how did the crowd react?
I mean, at that moment, I thought it was fireworks at first. And, you know, everybody was just kind of unsure what it was. They're like, oh, maybe it was fireworks. And then it just said pop, 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 pop. And then everybody I just froze. I fell to the ground. People were like ducking for cover. People were getting shot at. Like you could hear the ricochets around you. It was so scary.
You could see and hear the destruction. And you also saw real heroism, people stepping up into the breach.
Absolutely. I mean, in a world where everyone's kneeling, those first responders stood up and charged headfirst into that, guns drawn, not knowing what they were going into, or knowing that it was a fully automatic weapon. Everyone was crouched, hiding and stuff, and I didn't see a single police officer taking cover. They charged right in.
And you saw people administering first aid.
Yeah, I mean, thank God it was a country concert. There's a lot of ex-military there and things. You saw people of all ages just jumping into gear with whatever training they may have had. People holding, putting their fingers inside wounds to stop the bleeding, throwing fencing down to try to take multiple bodies out at a time. It's just...
And you said you've had time to reflect now. You said you've been emotional throughout the day, thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes in waves, huh?
It's just like when you start talking about it again, and you replay that sound or someone replays that video and you just hear the gunshots and hear the screaming, and it just brings you right back to it, and then it's just like a whirlwind of emotions.
Well, it's been a lot of trauma for you guys. Thanks so much for joining us, Brianna and Russell, telling us what you saw. All right, we will.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.